Hey everybody, it's PJ Homertz again, and today we'll be talking about the fuel program in Madagascar. This is a fantastic opportunity for young men who are interested in missions to come and dip their toe in the water, to begin to experience what it would look like to serve full-time, to get that cross-cultural depth of experience that will help them as they move forward in mission. On the call today, we have our mobilizer from South Africa, Natasha Simmons. We'll also be joined in the call by Jordan Bracey, who led the first fuel program in Madagascar last year. This year, he's handing things off to Brian McReynolds, who will be joining us as well, talking about the future of fuel and what it looks like. Great. All right, well, welcome everybody to the call. Natasha, if you want to introduce yourself first real quick. This is the first time that we've had you on one of these calls, and anybody who doesn't know you in the mobilizing and receiving side, just get a chance to know you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and everyone else is listening in. I'm AIM personnel at the ZAR office. We're in a place called Plumstead, a suburb called Plumstead within Cape Town. It's actually based in a residential area. I've been with AIM since mid-February 2018, and yeah, still going. My background is teams on a secular level, and I think very much is how I ended up at AIM. I think a little bit of background experience instead of just the administration part of it is, it solidifies things and marries the two. I sort of have a little bit of field experience is counted in my forte.
That's great. Thanks so much, Natasha. Jordan, if you could just tell us a bit about you, kind of a general introduction to you and your family and your work would be great.
Yeah, so my wife and I, we have 2 children currently, and we are right now in Nosy Bay, Madagascar, in a village called Androfia.
Madagascar is right here, the capital city here in Antananarivo. The small island of Nosy Bay that's off of the main island of Madagascar. Now, to get to Nosy Bay, we can either fly to their airport, which is right there, or we can go up to the coast and then take a motorboat ride across the ocean here to the main town on the village, which is called Helville. And so there's Nosy Bay, and when we were in Madagascar before for a year and a half, we lived in Mbatazavavi, which is the beach village right here, Androfia, which sits right about here. And there's a beach village here that's called Andimakabu. Now, to get to Androfia, we would, from the airport, we could take an hour hike to get into Androfia. Or if we're coming from town, you could drive, get a taxi. That's about a half-hour taxi ride from town to the airport. Maybe 40 minutes, and then we'd walk into Androfia. The other way to get there is via the beach village here, Andimakabu, which is about a half-hour walk from Androfia, and then a 45-minute boat ride to Mbatazavavi. And from there, you can take a taxi to wherever you need to go. This is the village of Androfia.
When we first came, we came with a TIMO team, so that's what drew us here to Nosy Bay. And so we've been with AIM since that TIMO team, and we had a couple of years or so in between the TIMO team and this current term, and we're just continuing on with what the TIMO team started in a different village, trying to get a church going in this village and doing outreach here in some of the surrounding villages, although my wife and I have a heavy interest in translation and resource development for in Saklava for what is hopefully the burgeoning Saklava church here. So,
Brian, just a bit about you, background, family, where you're at, and how you got to where you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian McReynolds. My wife, her name is Rebe or Rebecca. It's Rebe in America, but in Africa, it's really Rebecca because it's just really hard to say Rebe for most people here. So it becomes Rebecca. We have 5 children. Our oldest will be 17 very soon. And our youngest is 2.5 months. She was born smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. And we are just very thankful for that bright ray of light in this weird and unique year. So we have been missionaries in Africa since 2005. We spent the first part of our time in South Africa, and we've been in Madagascar since 2013. We were on the same TIMO team that Jordan and Laura came on. At that time, they did not have children, and now they have 2. And we had 3, and now we have 5. So we have 2 born in Madagascar. And since 2016, we have had a couple of church plants open up in the village that we're living in now, which is a fishing village, and a village about 2 miles into the jungle, which is more of a smaller rustic village. And so we've had 2 church plants going. We've also started a music ministry. We've met some incredible musicians that are part of this village that we live in here, called Mbatuzavavi. And they have made over 25 original worship songs in the Sakalava language, which as far as we know are the first of those of that kind. That has led to some other things as well, including Sakalava Bible translation, and also some other resources such as the Jesus Storybook Bible that's been translated into the Sakalava language. My wife, she and a couple of women in this village started a business called Mama Vovo, and they make fine handcrafted bags, works of art, tea towels, and different things like that, and they sell them to the tourists that come to our island, to Nusi Bay. We do have quite a bit of tourists come to the island, mainly from Europe, from France and Italy. And we had set up a shop in our village, and people can buy those products. So that's been a real blessing. The pandemic especially has really hurt our island here, as I would estimate that Nusi Bay's economy is probably 90% based on tourism. And so it's just wiped that out completely. And so there's a lot of suffering going on right now due to that. And so we've kind of joined together with our churches and with the Mama Vovo ladies to address that to the people in our community. And that's been a great thing. It's we have seen a lot of people coming to the Bible studies, coming to the church services that haven't normally, just based on that outreach that we were able to do, providing food relief and medicine to people that need it.
Oh, that's great. What's the area there kind of look like?
The thing about Nusi Bay is it's an interesting place because where we live and where Jordan's village is, it's very traditionally Malagasy, very rural, a lot of fishing and rice farming, and also some cattle herding as well. So the main way people here survive is growing rice, taking advantage of the fruit that grows wild here, and fishing in the ocean. But the other side of the island has really beautiful beaches, and it's kind of, in the past 10 or 15 years, developed into kind of a tourist hub.
That's great. That helps. Talking about fuel, what is your kind of vision?
What we're trying to do with fuel is 2 things, really. For us, we here in Nusi Bay have created what we're calling a hub for Malagasy missionaries. So Nusi Bay is a place for AIM throughout the country. We have missionaries, AIM missionaries all over the country, but this is a place where they or churches in Madagascar can send missionaries, Malagasy missionaries, to be trained. So we've had several Malagasy missionaries trained here and then sent out to different places. Some have remained here. So what we're trying to do with Fuel for the Malagasy missionary side is to create more interest for that program, to get more awareness and more interest and more passion for Malagasy people to be missionaries in Madagascar. With the expat side, with the people coming from South Africa or Brazil or Canada or wherever, that is for them to really just dip their toe into missions, especially missions with AIM. It's to get them excited. It's to add fuel to the fire. I think that's why it's named Fuel, with the hopes that they would take this 6 weeks here, process it, possibly finish education that they're going through, I'm not sure, but then maybe want to come back and do a TIMO team or actually join an existing AIM team in Madagascar or elsewhere, just creating that awareness and exposure for them. I think this is a really great opportunity for any young guy that's had an interest in missions to come and experience it in a way that's really unique and really it's a helpful way to be introduced to missions, because as much as possible in a short amount of time that you'll be here, you really get to experience some of the reality of missions, especially in Africa and especially working with an unreached people group. And that's not always available to people. And so it's a good opportunity.
Jordan, you guys ran the Fuel program there last year. And if you could just talk about what that looked like, how it went, where people were, just kind of an overview of what it looked like last time, that would be great.
The Fuel program is usually designed for like 8 weeks. So it's been, for us, we compacted it down to 6 weeks. And so the actual location where it was in Bemanonju-Eli, which is a small village, and it's about an hour walk from Mbatsavavi, or if you go in the other direction, another hour walk, and you get to a village called Marduka, and from there, from Marduka, you can get a little tuk-tuk into Helville, which is the main town, more or less, on the island. The first year we did it, we actually had one foreigner, one Westerner who came, and we had all the rest were Malagasy men. And so they lived together in a local styled house in the village of Bemanonju-Eli. And so almost everything took place there in that village. They lived there, slept there, we did teaching there. And so for just kind of a overview of what would happen during the week is we had 4 or 5 days of teaching, where there was me, another missionary, Steve. Sometimes we'd have guests as well, I guess, who would come and speak, just to give their testimony, their experience in missions, and to encourage and challenge the men who were there. And then we also had a local missionary who lived there with the guys and help take care of things there. So during the week, we had those 4 or 5 days of teaching, and the guys would have a day to be able to go into town to get supplies, food or rice or whatever that they would need to get. And then they would have a day where they would be able to go out into different villages and do some kind of ministry in those villages. And so for the first year, it ended up being, they did ministry mostly with children. And so obviously the Malagasy men had helped a lot with in that ministry. So they got to experience that, and they got to also be with the Sakalava Church plants either in Bemanonju-Eli or in Mbatsavavi for worship. During our time of teaching, we covered cultural things, covered living in the bush. We covered some basic missions stuff, spiritual warfare, and just covering different topics that would be more or less relevant to the missions general, but also things that are more specific to here, like covering animism, traditional beliefs. That first year, one of the highlights was just going through the book of Acts for all of the Malagasy men who were on the team. All of them said that Acts, going through Acts, doing the Bible study through Acts, that was seemed to make a big impact on them. Another thing is we had a time of prayer for unreached people groups. And so we know one guy actually during one of our unit retreats, he mentioned that was an impact for him. And the guys, as they're living in the house, they're going in town to buy their supplies, so food for the week. And they were, washing their own clothes there in the village, which for any foreigner would be an experience. They also had some free time where they could get to know people in the village and practice their language, because there was language learning as part of the program as well.
That's great. And then, so you're maybe about an hour from where the team was, so you would kind of come in and do the teaching. How did that work with you guys interacting with the team from where you were?
I was here in Androfia, so I would go to Mbatsavavi, and that's where Steve was staying for just during the time of fuel. So yeah, we would walk from Mbatsavavi into Bemanandra and do the teaching there.
Obviously, we're going to try and do this again in 2021 here coming up. Jordan, you guys will be on home assignment for this coming one. Brian, you guys will be taking the reins. How do you envision the program looking, working? Where do you see participants staying? What does it look like for you going forward?
The team coming in 2021 will stay in the same place that first team did. That's a really good location. We've had missionaries live in that village as far back as 2013. We've had houses there, and it's a really welcoming village. Actually, the first people from this area that came to Christ through the ministry of AIM in this area are from that village, and that's where the first church plant started. And so there's a lot of history in that village, both good and bad. That village is one of the most dark, spirit-filled villages that I've ever experienced. My friend Jed, who lived there, said he thinks every adult in that village had a trumba, which means was possessed by a spirit. And so that just, you could feel the darkness when you walked into that village. And what's amazing is through the ministry of the missionaries living there, and through our what we called our gatherings, which is where we would show up there, lay down some grass mats, and just tell the gospel through story and through song, people's hearts changed. And like I said, these people started coming to Christ and realizing that the way they were living was wrong. And so there's so many people in that village that were once part of that darkness that have completely changed and really been a source of light to the rest of the community. But it does still have that darkness. And so it's a really good place for people to come to be exposed to the reality of the spiritual battles going on amongst the Sakalava, both the good and the bad.
That seems like a key location for them to be in to learn and to grow. Then, Brian, how far are you guys from the team?
We live about an hour walk to the village that the team will stay in, or a short dirt bike or quad drive. So we'll just kind of shuttle in and out every day. And I might have my 17-year-old son stay there a few nights, see how that goes. But yeah, we'll just kind of take it day by day, and just plan on being there every day, either walking or on a dirt bike getting there. What
will the kind of engagement look like with the team from the leadership? I know last time Melias was the partner that was staying with them there.
We hope to have Melias back. He is currently in a different part of Madagascar, but we're thinking, by next year he'll be back and be a big part of this. We also have another missionary family that lives in Jordan's village that we hope to be a part of it. And then the two church plants here, and then the village where the team will be, each one of those church plants has an ordained elder that's kind of over the church that were formerly Malagasy missionary partners of ours. And so their names are Jean and Lebaba. And those two young guys will definitely be a part of it as well. So we've got a pretty strong core group of Malagasy missionaries to help. And then also we plan on utilizing a lot of the new believers in the two church plants. We hope to use those guys to do some, maybe just some cultural teaching or just to hang out and kind of make that a smooth process.
Natasha, what as a mobilizer, what questions do you have for these guys about the fuel teams?
I picked up that you mainly had male-only teams. Would there be the possibility of having a mixed team in the future? For now, would it just be one gender team?
So as far as I know, the fuel teams are male only. And I think they do that mainly just for the reason that they're in such close quarters, kind of living together, going through that experience together and being focused on not only learning about missions in a foreign environment, but also learning how to interact with, like, for instance, here, the Malagasy missionaries. So it's kind of like a cross-cultural experience within a cross-cultural experience.
What is the age criteria? Just curious to know. People would want to know. What is the youngest and the oldest in terms of age that people can join this particular team?
It's really designed for young men, college age, maybe a little bit after college. It is physically difficult, just being in a village, walking a long way. So it does require some physical stamina.
What kind of spiritual preparedness would you initiate for people before they enter the village?
For one, it would depend on where they're coming from. For instance, we experienced a little dose of kind of a similar spiritual warfare when we lived in South Africa, a rural part of South Africa. So if someone's coming from South Africa, they might already have a little bit of experience in this environment, although this is much deeper than what we experienced in South Africa. If someone's coming from America, Canada, Europe, maybe they have no experience, in which case it might benefit them to read possibly a missionary biography. Bruchko and the Motolom Miracle is a good one. So just maybe suggesting reading a few missionary biographies are always good to get you exposed, but it really is hard to prepare for the reality that will hit you once you arrive. The most important thing for people coming to any field, especially for the first time, but really even veteran missionaries, is to come willing to be a learner, willing to take in things that you don't yet have answers to, and just experience that. And through your words and actions, here mainly actions because you can't speak the language, just try and be some source of light to the community. And
then team size, kind of what are you guys looking at for the size of the team?
Probably 6 to 8 total guys is a good number.
Yeah. And you can't, and then for the house that we have, anyways, doing more than 8 is not going to really work. The ideal for us would be to have that 1-to-1 ratio, if you have one Malagasy to one foreigner coming from, wherever.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good sized team. There's no question about it. So, so we're looking for about 4 coming from the mobilizing regions to you guys. You guys are pretty remote up there. In terms of local health care, if there's a health issue, do they have to come out to the capital? Is there kind of local healthcare options where you guys are?
Nosy Be is a unique place because where we live and where the team will be is very rural. But the other side of the island, there are quite a few places of infrastructure that have been developed. For instance, we have a local hospital in the one town, a government hospital, and then there's also a private Italian hospital further along near where the hotels are. That's quite nice. So most medical issues will just be dealt with on the island. If there's something serious, we would then, look at the capital or possibly Kenya or South Africa.
In terms of transport, generally, would we have them fly directly to Nosy Be, or will they go to the capital and then transit up? What does the that initial sort of transport up to you guys look like?
Now that we have these international flights coming in, that'll be fairly easy. They'll just fly directly to Nusi Bay, most likely via Ethiopian Airlines. And then it's just a short drive to our village. And yeah, they'll fly out of here as well. They won't have to go to the capital at all because the tourist visa is 90 days and they'll be here less than that. So that'll be great.
One other quick thing, Brian, can you show me that view again? Because that was priceless right there.
Yeah. So this is the village of Mbatazawavi at the end of the day. Got a few boats coming in. They're loading up a big boat right there, which will then go to another village down the way that's only accessible by boat. And there's some kids playing in the water. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, that is
so beautiful.
that's definitely not the view out my window here in Iowa. So
I become a little bit jealous.
yeah. Well, again, thank you guys so much for today, and we'll try to find you guys some fantastic dudes to come out and learn alongside you.
Yep. Well, have a great day. Bye.
All right. So thanks so much for watching the video today. I hope it gives you the tools that you need to find the right short-termers to come and join the Fuel program. If you have any more questions about this, feel free to reach out to our Southern Region office. They'll be able to put you in touch with the right people and answer most of the questions that you have about this particular Fuel program.